This is what you're looking at.
Oh my.
That's it.
Look at that.
Oh, okay. This is what ladies do.
That's the temple.
We're looking at that corner. This is the corner of the temple.
Oh my.
Anyway, this is what the temple looked like during the time of Christ. Okay? You see that? Exactly like this. We're now looking at the southwestern corner of the temple now. That's this here. You notice here that there's a bridge? Well, the bridge isn't here anymore, but you can still see that piece protruding from the wall.
Sure can.
Yeah.
That's this bridge right here. Now,
Oh, okay.
see this wall? This is the southern wall. You see something perpendicular going into the wall over here? Take it away. It doesn't belong here. It's Byzantine and Turkish. Just make, visualize in your mind that the wall is continuing going that way. And as it went that way, that's where the steps are. We will be on the steps in a few minutes. Because all of that was added on about 1,000 years ago. All right? Now, you may notice that the bottom half, in other words, from where that bridge was going down, the stones look different than the stones going up. Do you see that?
Yes.
Because all those stones that were up there, originally from the time of Herod, were toppled out by the Romans, correct? They were pushed out. This bottom half supports the platform inside. So those stones that you're looking at are the original building stones of King Herod the Great. As a matter of fact, these are over here. You can see how someone built a wall? That was reused stone that came falling down from the top by the Romans. King Herod the Great didn't bother with building blocks like these. He said, why should I bother with that when I can have my building blocks weighing anywhere from 2 to 480 tons per stone? His walls went up 176 feet. That's 17 stories. Okay? Now, the amazing thing about this is that all of his stones were quarried someplace else. They were brought here. They went 20 feet below ground level, the foundation stones, to support the walls. And as the walls went up, no cement or adhesive was used to hold the stones together. They are so cut perfectly that if you walk up to the walls today with a credit card, you can barely get it in between the seams of the two stones. Okay? Now, anybody here a contractor or a builder? You know that if you build a retaining wall to hold in like a garden, like say you lived like street level and you walked up a couple of steps to your house and you had a garden there, a lawn, you needed a retaining wall to hold in all that soil, right? Today, when you build a retaining wall, even with cinder block and cement, you still need some sort of steel beams inside to support that wall so that it doesn't fall outwards from the weight of the soil, right? Then how is it possible that King Herod the Great brings hundreds of thousands of tons of landfill on top of the Temple Mount to make a platform and the walls don't buckle outwards? You know how he does that? And remember, the stones don't have cement holding them together. As each stone goes up, now you can only see this when you're standing next to the wall. As each stone goes up, it goes in an inch, up, an inch, up, an inch. And that's enough to keep the pressure from the walls buckling outwards.
Wow.
All right? Now, besides that, we're going to be walking right over there. There was a street like this. Remember we went to the Wailing Wall?
Yes.
It's this section right here. This little piece right there, that's the Wailing Wall today. As a matter of fact, today you can pray over here. It's the continuation of the Western Wall. But unfortunately, up until 15 years ago, you see where that bridge is up there? All of this was landfill up to there. So all of this has been excavated within the last 15 years or so. All right? You see that? Okay, now, along this southern wall, you see where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is? Right there? Remember I told you that the third holiest site in Islam? Okay, along this wall over here was a portico. Do you see that? Which means that if you walked up these steps to go into the temple, it was like walking through the subway. It was dark. You went up through here, and then you went inside this portico. In the portico was the place where the money changers were, was the place where the people sold animals for sacrifice. This is also probably the place where Jesus saw that man that he healed at the pools of Bethesda. Remember, and he says to him, sin no more or worse will happen to you. It's also the same place where he turns over the tables and he goes ballistic one day, saying that you're taking the house of God and turning it into a den of thieves. Right inside that building. Right here. Okay? Now, let's take another view. Beep. Okay. Now, we're going to be standing over there. We're going to be right on the steps. You see this really big courtyard inside? That was called the courtyard of the Gentiles. Meaning that anybody, even if you're not of the faith, can go up there. Because the remarkable thing about the temple was it was the only religious site in the world that did not contain one statue. Right?
Oh, that's good.
The Jews didn't believe in statues. Okay? Now, if you wanted to go through here, only Jews were allowed to go into this inner courtyard. There was actually a sign in Greek. Greek was the commercial language 2,000 years ago. Like today, anywhere you go, if you go to the Gobi Desert or you go to the Amazon River, everyone knows a few words in English. In those days, during the time of Christ, everyone spoke Greek. That was the commercial language. So therefore, there was a sign right there by that door that said that if you were not of the faith and you passed by this line, God will strike you dead. You understand? It doesn't mean that one of the guards is going to kill you, but if you go beyond that and if you're not of the Jewish faith, then God will kill you before your time. Just a curse. I don't know if it actually really happened. All right? Now, inside, don't get confused. This is the gate right now. This is the Mount of Olives. That's right up there, right?
Amen.
This is the eastern wall. When you were standing upon the eastern wall, you were looking at the eastern gate. Right? You notice how the eastern gate isn't exactly in the middle? Now, when we went up to the Temple Mount, the Golden Dome was just about over here. Remember I said that it was like 50 feet north of the Golden Dome?
Yes.
That's why the temple had to be in line with the eastern gate.
Oh.
You see that? Okay. This gate here, don't get confused. This is also called the Golden Gate, but this gate was called Gate Beautiful. Now, beyond that gate, that led you into the courtyard of the women, and then beyond that gate, that led you into the courtyard where the sacrificial mount was, and also the Holy of Holies. Now, I'm using that term very loosely because there was no more Holy of Holies. The first temple, which contained the Holy of Holies, was totally destroyed, and we don't know what happened to the Ark of the Covenant. But they say that the presence of God was inside the building, and that one day, on the Day of Atonement, the holiest day on the Jewish calendar, then the high priest would go inside and ask forgiveness for the sins of the Jewish people. If God would say no, he would strike him dead. How do you get him out? He had a rope tied around him. Okay? All right. And so everyone sees that? So we're now looking at this corner right here. You see that?
Yes.
Now, you see this building over here? In this corner?
Yes.
You notice that one of the towers is taller than all the others?
Yes.
That's called the Antonia Fortress. The Antonia Fortress was the Roman presence in Jerusalem. The Roman presence in Judea was Caesarea. That was the capital of Rome in Judea. That's where Pontius Pilate, Felix, Festus, all the Roman Judean governors had their seats. But in Jerusalem, there was a garrison here. Maybe about 50 soldiers, 100 soldiers. That's what's called the Praetorium. Okay? Antonia Fortress. Herod built this and had it named after Mark Antony. What happened at the Antonia Fortress, if that's the Praetorium? That's the judgment hall where Christ was condemned by Pontius Pilate. Inside the Antonia Fortress. That's where he was kept before the crucifixion.
So from the Caiaphas house, he came to the...
Caiaphas' house, we can't see it from here.
Came to the Antonia
No,
Fortress.
because first what happened was he was arrested
Yes,
in the Garden of Gethsemane. Okay, and then they took him to the house of Caiaphas, which is that way.
Okay.
And then they led him back through the city to go to the Antonia Fortress.
Okay.
Okay.